Hello, this is Dr. Hisham Saeed. In this lesson, we'll learn about construction claims. We'll learn about the purpose and the process of claims in construction projects, and also the possible reasons for initiating such claims. So claims are filed by contractor. They're not filed by the owner or the architect. They're kind of a way to protest to the owner or contractor of different cost issues that the contractor would like to recover. And it's not only cost, it's time or both. So claim is a way to formally protest, contractually show that you are in harm as a contractor and you would like to recover cost and time. If the claim is not settled or resolved by a change order, then that escalates it to be a dispute that will cover how dispute resolution is handled. But the procedures for claims, if we, again, the whole major part of this course is based on design bid build and AIA 201 contract. So Article 4.3 outlines the procedures that are used in filing claims and the reasons for possible reasons for filing claims. But here these procedures are based on this understanding here of rights and responsibilities. So the owner has the right to be notified of any harm to the contractor. So the contractor cannot bypass that. You have to let the owner first that you are struggling with something, cost or time issues. On the other hand, the contractor has the right to file a claim. So they're not feeling threatened by filing a claim that they will be fired, you can say. All contract claim remedies has to be exhausted before going to the more expensive option, which is the court. And then the contractor has to proceed with the work in parallel. So any work that's not being disputed, it has to move forward until the claim is settled. Even if you go to escalated kind of dispute resolution procedures, the work has to proceed accordingly. So what are the possible reasons for claims? So we have here 9. We'll cover in this video 8 of them, and then the delay claims we'll keep it to a separate video. So the first reason is that the owner asks for changes in the schedule. So it can be like rearranging the project sequence, and that can be requested by the owner or the architect. Once this is done, this is a very clear basis for filing a claim by the contractor. So the best way to file a claim that's sound and defensible and justified is to use critical path method scheduling techniques. It's the very standard way of generating and managing schedules in construction. And as a contractor, you have to be really seasoned on using CPM scheduling tools. And one thing from the owner's side, that the owner requires routine kind of submission of the schedule and the updated version of it. So routine kind of approval of these schedule submissions are not recommended. You have to really look into the schedules and see what's really changing in the schedule and what the contractor is planning to do. So the contractor has to consistently review the contractor's submitted schedules in case a claim happens, so they are aware of how the project is run. Another reason, which is kind of related, is acceleration of the work. So it's not like changing the schedule, but you're asking now as an owner to make things faster. So things like use double shifts or a bigger equipment, more productive equipment, overtime. So these are kind of ways to accelerate the schedule. The acceleration can happen because of directed acceleration, meaning that the owner asks directly for accelerating specific part of the project or finishing the project earlier, or constructive acceleration. So this acceleration that the contractor want to do to recover from issues that the owner caused or the contractor caused. So the owner can ask for accelerating the schedule because they want to finish the project earlier. In this case, the contractor needs to ask for, file a claim to recover the additional cost of acceleration. Or the owner believes that the project is not moving as planned, on track. And in this case, the contractor has to defend that the schedule is feasible and can be still be done. On the other hand, constructive accelerations are things that accelerations that are requested by the contractor because they were put behind the schedule because of the owner or the architect. For either directive or constructive acceleration, it's not an easy task to justify the cost of acceleration. People generally know that work acceleration results in additional costs, but it's hard to calculate it, and people always debate it. So the major part of it is the labor cost, how you can calculate the labor loss due to acceleration. And one example here is if you use overtime to accelerate the work, this means that you have more working hours. So instead of 8-hour shift, you might have 16-hour 2 shifts now. But because of the extended work hours, you might have lower productivity, which results in fatigue, and that results in additional costs. So this is a very common chart here to show the fatigue, overtime impact, and also the impact on the cost. So if you are using here a 50-hour per week kind of schedule, work plan, so this means that you're working 10 hours more per week, or even you can ask for 20 hours per week additional, so 60 hours per week. If you continue doing that over weeks, the impact on productivity is greater. So initially, the first week you apply the policy of either 50 hours or 60 hours a week, you feel a drop in the productivity, but people will get adjusted to it a little, and then they will get fatigued right away over time. You can see the relationship between this curve and that curve. So if you have 40 hours a week, you have production or productivity of index of 1. But if once you increase, use 50 hours or 60 hours a week, your cost will increase. So even might increase between 1.5, so your cost is increasing 50%, or in some cases even 200%. So double the cost to install the same unit if you keep using the 60-hour per week over a period of time, which is around 8 weeks. So that's chart here showing conceptually the impact of overtime on the productivity, fatigue, and then the increased cost, unit cost, eventually at the end. Then the next reason for claims is suspension of work. So the owner can have the right to suspend the work because of many reasons, lack of finance or legal issues, or design changes. So in any case here, the owner or the architect has to be prepared with kind of a good record of what activities are affected, because the contractor will ask for costs because of the delay of the suspension. One thing also that the owner has the right per the AIA to suspend the work by what we call the owner for convenience. So they might not even say the reason, just for convenience we are suspending the work here. But anyway, the contractor here can claim for any cost related to that. Examples are like, during that period of suspension, I have to use my equipment in another project, so demobilizing these equipments and mobilizing it back, leases for equipment, inventory of material that would be damaged over this waiting time, unpaid payments for subcontracts. So a lot of costs can happen because of the suspension of the work. Weather is another reason for claim. And the thing here, it's unusual severe weather. So what constitutes here an unusual weather? It's a weather that prevents you from doing the work, but also it's in excess of the average, which is typically here we're talking about rain. Also wind can be an issue, but the average annual rainfall over the historical period during the same time. So you get this data from the U.S. Weather Bureau if you are in the U.S., and you can compare now. This is the rainfall that we experience. This is the historical rainfall, and we see that we cannot do the work. Please, we're claiming here this additional cost. And also that documentation here is done by the daily, diaries and reports from the site, which also the owner architect should also have their own documentation, so they're matching and verifying that. So almost halfway. Next would be constructive changes. So constructive changes are not, we cover constructive acceleration, which is focused on scheduling. Here, generally, constructive changes, things that happen because of the failure to act by the owner or architect. So failure to act here is you expect some action from the owner architect at one specific time, and failure to do that will result in costs that will be claimed by the contractor. But the claim here has to happen within a time period, maximum time period from the incidents, and that's mentioned in most contracts. So you have to file the claim because of constructive changes within a time period, a month, let's say. Beyond this month, that's it. You can claim for that. Check the textbook for this court case. So Continental Hiller Corporation was building a project, and there was a very heavy rain, and they were doing foundations. So they were excavating. The sub couldn't really excavate anymore because the soil was super wet. So they had to wait and for it to dry using the equipment they have. But the owner said, "No, I will not. I don't take that as an unusual weather. Go ahead and proceed, and try to be on schedule." So that requires schedule acceleration. Then the point here is not the schedule acceleration. The point is the failure to act, because later in the project, the owner said, "All right, I will give you 16 weeks extension because of the unusual winter that we had," but then the contractor already accelerated, right? So the failure to act, if they mention that extension of time when right after rain, so the contractor didn't invest time and effort and money in accelerating the work, then there will not be an issue. But now failing to act by the owner resulted in additional costs that were spent anyway, and the contractor here claimed for it, and they won the case. Failure to agree on change order pricing. So we learned in the change orders lesson that there's a change construction change directive. You have to do that work of the additional scope, and we'll agree on the price. If there is no agreement on the price, then that will result in a claim. Design issues can be a reason for claims, and design accuracy is always an issue. You cannot have 100% accurate design, and people would say from the industry studies here showed like it will be 2 to 5% difference or impact on the cost of the project. Terminology here, errors means that things that are not shown correctly in the specs or drawings. Omissions are information that's not shown at all in the project documents. So many of these issues are caught before any major commitment happens, but others are detected too late. So while you're building, I'm checking the plans while I'm building this masonry wall, and it doesn't make sense. So that will result in disputes between the architect and the contractor. So most projects or the owners, they require the architect or the engineer to take on that liability to correct the errors and emissions, without, of course, asking for additional compensation for the architect or the engineering staff. In some cases, also a third party, another design firm, will intervene to validate the calculations and make sure that, like, assess the impact here of the errors or emissions. But of course, the liability, eventually, the cost of the work of that claim by the contractor will be covered by the owner at the end. Differing site conditions, so anything that's hidden underground is referred to as a differing site condition or unforeseen conditions. It's, of course, the owner liability. The owner owns the lot or the building or the project. Even like federally, on the federal level, the policy is to allow making adjustments or accepting these claims for time and cost for any site conditions, unforeseen site conditions. And the reason for that is if they don't do that, that will result in most contractors early in the bid phase to put a lot of contingency in their bids, and that will raise the whole, all the bid prices and will raise the cost of the whole project then. So that's a policy to reduce that amount of contingency that's put by every bidder, every contractor bidding for the project, and that's very wise. You can't ask contractors to price something that they can't see or they can't predict that much. So we went over the possible reasons. This is not exhaustive list, but it's the typical reasons for contractors to file claims, and we're keeping the last one, delays, for an additional kind of a separate video, because we'll touch on the different delay analysis in this video. All right, thanks for watching. I will see you in other videos. Take care.